Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is William Bill Caye. I'm a candidate for the Allegheny County Court of Common Pleas. We're hosting a podcast this evening, and I'm honored to have a special guest by the name of Delancey Walton. And Delancey is going to tell you a little bit about herself and what she's been doing to improve our community and education. And Bill Caye has been talking on the campaign trail, but also listening to what the people are asking of a public servant in the court system to be more proactive and transparent with our youth, to be more program and problem solved oriented. And so we welcome our guest this evening, Delancey Walton. Delancey, it's great to see you.
Hi, it's great to see you too.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. Give us some background. Tell us where you live, what you're doing, and why you're running for the office of the school board in the city of Pittsburgh.
Okay, so I am Delancey Walton. I am a first-year student at Duquesne University. My major is in political science with a minor in English. I am also the vice president of the freshman class council. I am employed by Duquesne University in the Office of Alumni Engagement. And also throughout my life, I had a lot of leadership positions. Throughout high school, I was a two-year president of BSU. I was a part of Stand Together, which is a mental health awareness club. I was a part of Law Team, which is a mock trial competition for students. Right now, I am running for school board director for District 9, which is the north side and western area. I reside in Perry Hilltop as of now. I decided to run for school board because I found a purpose in making an impact and making a change in our school board and allowing myself to be a student voice and to be a student experience to make decisions, policies, and procedures on behalf of the students for their success.
Well, that's amazing stuff. And I think when we met initially on the north side, you were actually circulating petitions as I was circulating my petitions for Court of Common Pleas. And when we got to talking, there was a lot of common ground in the sense that I was a political science major in my undergraduate degree at Duquesne University. And I attended, as I recall telling you, the law school. And then it was like life's a circle. And I think one of your family members actually was helping me on a previous campaign. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so my granddad, Homer Walton, was the person who helped you. He is an attorney, now retired, but he still works as an attorney here and there. He is actually helping me with my campaign now as the treasurer. So that's a little bit about him and how he's a part of my life.
Tell the folks that are going to watch this show a little bit about that first encounter. What were your impressions of how you and I sort of interacted and communicated, and the types of questions that you were asking me and I was asking you, and that there's common ground and we're trying to work together to better our communities? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I was really excited to meet you, especially since, you attended Duquesne, I attend Duquesne now. So it was an amazing atmosphere connecting with you. And then once we started to talk about making an impact in the communities, it really focused on education, and then it really focused on being a help towards students in our communities, having mentoring programs, having just programs throughout the summer to help students, having organizations that students can be a part of that will help them focus on their future and help them academically.
And you having come through public schools and now you're in higher education, what are some of the goals or objectives that you see from what you think can fix some of the things that are lacking in our education system with our teens and our youth?
Yeah, so the goal is for our students to have success. Now, success is to be defined by them. What defines them successful? What does it mean for a student to be successful in their own eyes? So when I say that, it's just building brilliance. I go off this during my campaign. So it's building brilliance, it's accepting change, the renovate, and it's community consistency. So we have to be very consistent in our communities and making sure that we are available to provide these programs and these resources and mentorship for our students. Building brilliance is just focusing on the students, straightforward as that, and just making sure that they are successful in their academics, but also successful outside of academics regarding business, whether they want to go to college or start their own businesses. So.
And after we first met, I'm sure you went to our website, williamcaye.com, to take a look at some of the things that we've stood for in terms of solidarity and unity, some of the platforms that I'm trying to bring in terms of certain solutions to our court system, where the courts intersect with our children and our youth, as well as our teachers. And I think I shared with you that my wife is a paraeducator at the high school where we reside in South Fayette, and she works with children on the spectrum. And that I shared with you as part of my responsibilities on the Duquesne University Law School Alumni Board of Governors, that I also do outreach and mentoring in our communities like the Brookline Teen Outreach. And we try to find common grounds with other communities in the neighborhoods that are sort of trying to integrate and give children places to learn and to accept the responsibilities and to learn how to improve their career endeavors. And you mentioned earlier in this presentation that you're involved in the alumni engagement at Duquesne University. Could you point to certain experiences there? Because again, I'm on the alumni board, where you were able to actually take some knowledge from the program at Duquesne, and then you're going to apply it to the community at Perry Hilltop and extend it in that District 9 of the school board of the City of Pittsburgh Public Schools.
Yeah, absolutely. So when it comes to working in the Office of Alumni Engagement, they're always available. So I want to take that availability and put it into the Pittsburgh Public Schools. They're always very consistent. They're always very open to providing resources and connecting you with who you need to be connected with. So I feel like that's very important, that we have these organizations and partnerships within our communities that can partner with our schools, so that our students can reach out to who can most importantly help them focus on what they want to go into their field. So if somebody wants to go into politics, we're able to set them up with a politician. Or if somebody wants to go to be a doctor, we're able to get them in nursing programs such as CTE programs that we have in Perry High School. So
you think that some of the things at Duquesne, like I think, in terms of creating greater accessibility, more openness, more experiential learning, where you have the people that actually are lawyers or are teachers working with the children in their communities to allow them to have that opportunity to be engaged in that fashion. Do you feel that that's sort of your big point to run for school board? Do you feel that that's going to be a realistic objective for you to achieve?
yes, absolutely. We want to make sure that they are successful. Like I keep saying, we just want our students to be able to have the resources that are necessary as being on the board. And we also want to make sure that we are making the correct decisions and focusing on the policies and procedures that will allow them to reach out to these partnerships and corporations that will help them in the long run as they continue off after college. Well, not after college, but after high school into college, and then, reach out to trade schools if they want to go to trade schools. It's such a broad spectrum now that our generation goes through, that it's just not a college focus, but it's more of a entrepreneur focus. It's more of a trade school focus. It's a lot that comes with, so we make what that comes with now. So we should make sure that we have these resources available to our students and that we are supporting them in each way possible.
How influential has your grandfather been in guiding you on your career journey here? Because I'm very fascinated. I mean, when I listen to you talk, I get excited. I'm enthused. Of course, I'm a little partial because I'm a Duquesne grad, but I'm thinking that the things that were taught to me from sort of your grandfather's generation, the things that I'm trying to bring to that next generation, we're all on the same page. We're trying to work together. We're trying to iron out differences, but still stay focused on helping people. I mean, would you say that your grandfather's been a tremendous influence in guiding you on your journey?
Yeah, absolutely. So it all started in my 11th grade year when I decided to be a part of the law team, which I talked about earlier, in mock trial competition. So, and at that point, he had helped me practice for the competition, helped me rehearse, helped me go over questions and go over my direct and go over my cross examination. He was very helpful at that point, and he was very helpful to the other students also. And he played a huge role and making sure that we were prepared. And that's just a good example of how, you know, the people who are already in the field can be a great representation for the people who are looking towards being in that similar field. And as of now, like I say, he's my treasurer. He still has been helping me connect with people. He has been always attending the meetings, making sure that we are financially set. So he has been a tremendous help. And he also wants to continue building the log team and mock trial competitions in our Pittsburgh Public Schools. So it's something that we look forward to doing in the future.
Well, the thing that also we want to let the viewers know is where would they go to find out about what you're doing on your campaign? Do you have a website? Do you have any type of social media pages that we can share with the people when they watch the show?
Yeah, so my website is delanceyforschoolboard.org. And then I have a Facebook page is Delancey for PPS, or you could just type in Delancey for School Board District 9.
Do you have any siblings, any other family members that are helping on your campaign and pitching in where they can? Because I do recall you were with a young lady over on the north side near the barber shop, and I guess that was that major intersection there. It was kind of interesting. We saw so many people from sort of different walks of life all in a short span of time. Can you tell us who else is sort of supporting you? Any political endorsements, any other notable elected officials that are joining in your efforts?
Yeah, so I have a full campaign team. So the lady you met when we met was my mother. So right now she's actually helping me run my campaign as a campaign manager. So she has been really supportive in this. She has been a great campaign manager, making sure that we have meetings, making sure that we have the yard signs and meeting with endorsements, having interviews and being on the forum. So that has been a really great help. I actually have a teacher, Mr. Mark Flaherty, who is at my high school, at Montour High School, who has been my debate specialist. So helping me prepare for the forums, helping me prepare for interviews, and a couple other things that would be necessary for me speaking to people. I have a full-on team. I have a chairman who is Cecil, graduated from Obama, is a PPS alum, so it's just good to see that I have people in education surrounded around me. My mom also, as a campaign manager, works for PPS, so it's a really strong team that is focused in education. When it comes to endorsements, I have been endorsed by Congresswoman Palu. Now, she actually helps Duquesne when it comes to teaching courses and classes here and there. That's how I met her. I met her through a class. And she has endorsed me. She was a congresswoman for 12 years. She worked in international affairs, and now she's an attorney. I was endorsed by Mayor Murda Garrett. This is the mayor of Wilkinsburg. I was endorsed by PFT, North Side Old Timers, which is an organization on the North Side that brings the community together to stop violence. So it has been a lot, but it's been really well with the people who have been surrounding me during this campaign.
Well, and there's no doubt there's always going to be the ups and downs, and you try to stay balanced. I think some of the things that you touched upon in terms of resources, I share that passion with you that the communities have to have the resources to deal with the problems, to give the youth alternatives. The courts have a role in that. They have to be more proactive. They have to be balanced. They have to be accessible. They have to be affordable. The resources that we're talking about for people that have the disabilities or special needs or mental health or addiction issues, we can no longer continue business as usual. So I think that's what you're saying about that shared vision of, making sure that the resources are balanced, that all communities have the same opportunities. It's more of a uniform way to address education issues as well as court issues. And frankly, I've always viewed judges as being part of educators. My community-based courts platform, for instance, I'm looking to partner with people in the communities, whether they're civic leaders, whether they're elected officials, and younger people. I'm running for the Court of Common Pleas, not for the people that have gone before me, but for the people that will come after me. That's the heart of being a servant leader, to create the communication that's honest. We cannot afford to tell people what they want to hear. We need to tell them the honest truth, that we are here to correct mistakes, to give second chances, to lift people up. So my message of reform is slightly different than some of the other candidates. I think there's like 40 candidates running for 9 spots. And I'm going to be on both ballots, which might be a little bit different than sort of non-judicial races. You're in a non-judicial race. I'm in a judicial race for the Court of Common Pleas. And what we want to do as judges is we want to be for the people, because we should be of the people and by the people. These elections matter. Courts matter. So tell us a little bit about what you think the courts can do to help facilitate education in our Pittsburgh public schools.
Yeah, so I believe in this instance, it just takes fairness. It takes making sure that we look over the issues that surround our schools and looking at the environment that our schools are in. So when it comes to our families and when it comes to courts, it's important that we are educated on the environment, and it's important that we are educated on how the schools are handling situations beforehand. And then once it gets to the courts, it's about fairness, it's about equality, and it's about equity.
Have any of the teachers, any of the union officials that you've talked to asked you questions? Sometimes we don't always know all the answers. I don't particularly know all the answers, but one of my skill sets is to research and to listen, because sometimes the answers are presented to us, but maybe not in a traditional way or in a customary way. Can you tell us an experience on your campaign where you may have looked at something originally one way, but then you came back to it after certain other people may have shared their comments and feedback, and now you've taken a more refined approach, a better understanding of what your constituents want for you to help them with when you get elected?
Yeah, absolutely. So right now, the focus on the PPS for school board is focused on charter schools. It is focused on policing. It is focused on community schools. So that's like the top 3 things that our board of directors have been asked about. And when it comes to taking a stance on each one of these things, you really have to dig deeper into what it means. And then you have to take your stance and take your approach. It's important to listen to everybody and take in what it actually means when it comes to community schools, what it actually means when it comes to having police in our schools, and what it means when we are providing funding to charter schools. So when it came to charter schools, it was important for me to talk to the teacher on my team, Mark Flaherty, about how charter schools may be ran, how they're funded, what PPS does. It was important for me to talk to a lady named Miss Angel, who gave me information about charter offices. So at that point, I was able to take a stand on making sure that we are able to legally look at charter schools funding and then help hold them accountable and transparent of how they spread their funding.
Well, I really appreciate you being on a show. The studio folks that are assisting me tonight, Dave Mastovich at Mass Solutions, and Marcel McCaskill, our technical crew chief. He's helping me keep this program rolling. We're going to take just a little break, and we'll come back and we'll have you discuss how you're distinguished from any opponents in your race. So why is it important for people of all walks of life to vote for a Court of Common Pleas judge? What is that judge going to do for those individuals? We'll give you an example. Let's think of it as a situation where you have a young woman and a young man dating each other, and they get into a physical altercation. Those individuals then can be placed into the Court of Common Pleas in the Family Division for protection from abuse order. whether it's the male or whether it's the female, and there's allegations of misconduct, physical harm, threatening behavior, violence, well, that judge of the Court of Common Pleas has the authority and the power to issue an order that would prevent those individuals from having any future contact with each other. If there's a child involved, if there's a biological child of these two individuals in the relationship, the court then has the power in that situation to remove the child from the custody of either parent and place that child into the custody of the Children and Youth and Family Services. And they will be looking for that child to be placed in a foster home until the situation amongst those two adults that can't get along and where there's allegations of threats and violence, then they have to stop and go about it. And the judge has to make those decisions, again, using sound judgment and equitable and fair justice for every citizen every time. Okay, we're back live. Well, not tonight. We decided to break ranks and do something a little bit more creative, think out of the box, like sometimes judges and educators must do in order to solve the problem. I'm joined with my special guest, Delancey Walton, tremendous candidate for school board in the city of Pittsburgh Public Schools. She's got a lot of support. If you come back from the break, my name is William Bill Caye, C-A-Y-E. I'm running for the Court of Common Pleas for judge. I'm running for the people to make a difference. I want to bring experience, integrity, and fairness to get results for the people. Want to show you a little bit of a card that is coming out soon. You can recognize me. Again, in the background, that's the Cathedral of Learning, because I'm a big proponent of education. I'm here again with Delancey Walton. We left off, we were discussing how she was going to bring some community programs to the children. She was going to work in partnerships with people from all walks of life, and she was going to listen to what the constituents had to say about these problems. So Delancey, going back to what you were talking about with young people, part of my campaign is to really engage the young people. What is it that you're hearing from the younger voters out there on the campaign trail? What do they want out of these education programs in the city of Pittsburgh?
So when it comes to what the younger generation wants right now is simply for someone to listen. It's simple to say, but right now, all we need is someone to listen to what we need for our resources, what we need to do in our next steps, and somebody that is willing to guide us in the right direction. And when it comes to any programs or mentorships or internships that they want to follow through in, it is just making sure that there's somebody there that can guide them to the right person, and that that these internships are available to them, and they're affordable sometimes when it's in a specific community. So we just want to make sure that we are able to put our children in the best mentorship programs, in the best internships, in the best partnerships with organizations that are even all over the country, so that they are able to get a great opportunity in life to continue their success and continue in their field.
Now, there's been some talk amongst some of the folks that I've discussed, the juvenile court system that affects our teenagers, as well as the minor judiciary, which interacts with our schools from the middle schools up to the high schools in the city and into the suburbs. I want to extend the resources to the community. I want to have the community stakeholders have more accountability and say in terms of the direction of the interaction with our children and the parents of our children. I've represented thousands of juveniles as a defense attorney. I've appeared in front of probably most of the magistrates in Allegheny County. I don't want to date myself, but over the years of 28 years of being a trial lawyer, both as a prosecutor and a defense attorney, and working for the Honorable Cynthia A. Baldwin, who I would think would also know your grandfather through the Allegheny County Bar Association, which has recommended me for the Court of Common Pleas to do the job of a judge. I've worked for these judges. And what we talk about with the juvenile justice system, and I think there's some breakdowns and disjuncts in how what the role of the judge's job is. I think there's a disconnect from the community's perception of what judges can really do. And we're talking about judges can decide to divert the disposition or defer the disposition over a child, whether they're in the magisterial level with a summary offense. It could be truancy, it could be disorderly conduct, it could be smoking a small amount of marijuana. On the juvenile side of the Court of Common Pleas, which is in the family division, you have children and youth advocates that are appointed. You have defenders from the public defender's office or private counsel. And so those folks have a right to counsel when the probation and the municipal police or the city of Pittsburgh police or the school police file petitions to adjudicate that child, someone under the age of 18, to be delinquent. And then you have levels of supervision. And again, I agree with you. I see disparities and inequities in terms of the regional aspects of if a child offends in, say, like a Mount Lebanon versus a Wilkinsburg, or if a child is alleged to have engaged in criminal behavior and they are maybe 16, 17 years of age, they can be charged as an adult. And so if they're in the Lincoln Leamington section or the Manchester or Marshall Salem section, what we want our judges to do, what I am about in my campaign, is to treat everybody with fair and equitable justice, every citizen, every time. So justice should not look different because of the people looking different and the communities being different, because we're all in one uniform court system in Allegheny County. So can you tell us if you've talked to any of the parents of children that may have been caught up in problems with being supervised by the probation on the juvenile side or under the supervision of a magistrate in the city of Pittsburgh Public Schools?
Yeah, so I have no spot on answer to this question, but I did hear a story before with a child who had to attend court because of truancy, and it was because they had to travel to the other side of town to go to school. And with that being said, it was a fear for the child to travel to that school because that's not the environment they grew up in. That's not the environment that is, we could say, friendly towards the person. So it's just very important that we understand our children, we understand their environment, we understand the fears that they have when they're attending school. And as a judge, it's important to make sure that we are first showing empathy and then fairness.
The parents of some of the children that I've represented are actually helping me on my campaign. I just wanted to give a shout out to Olivia Harris, my chair. She's been involved with the Democratic Committee in the 13th Ward. I also have my treasurer, Joseph Sanko, who is an elected official in Mount Lebanon, and he's always been a tremendous resource and mentor to me professionally. My wife is my vice chair. So there is that family connection, like your mom is helping you on your campaign. And again, we've talked about her commitment to public schools and public education, what she does in the classroom. And today she was on a field trip with children. They went to see some type of a vocational school out in the Parkway West area. I also have Reno Virgili, who's a small businessman, former mayor of Bethel Park. And to round it out, I have the retired judge, Timothy Patrick O'Reilly, who he had heard many disputes involving labor and contractual issues with our public school teachers from all the different communities, including the city of Pittsburgh. And he was preparing me on some of the issues because, again, I think you have to be prepared as a judge. I think you have to be able to research the law and be able to communicate, even when you're not quite understanding what the folks are saying. I think you still have to be open to listening to their different perspective, because we could be saying tomato and they could say tomato. Many people pronounce my last name Caye, but I say Caye. We're still talking about the same person. I want to talk now a little bit about, had you had any opportunities to discuss amongst your kitchen cabinet on your campaign, how you feel the courts and the schools could be better handling the drug issues concerning our communities.
Okay, so as a whole, as my whole campaign team, we have not had that discussion. I had a few discussions with my campaign manager, though, about that issue because outside of being my campaign manager, she works as a counselor. So she's able to see all these issues and she's able to speak with me on how they go, on the situation and what's happening. And I'm not quite sure on the solution as of now, but I know that it's important that we are making sure that we catch them firsthand and that we are providing resources once again and making sure that we are extending and available our handouts to these issues so that we can catch them before they get out of control or catch them before they get older and it becomes a repetitive offense.
Yeah, one of the things that, because I've been doing this for such a long time, I've adapted to the new technologies. I've looked at the statistics from various perspectives. And what I'm finding is that we should be working with smart data to give us some answers to questions, to perhaps modify or change the ways we've traditionally handled these problems, because it hasn't been working. And so why not use this time, this critical moment of a generational divide, to try to bridge the gap and open things up so that people do have the resources. So getting back to my community regionally based specialty courts, what I want to see is a more paralleled and uniform distribution of the resources to our children. It should not be that we're trying to guarantee that they repeat and then come on board into the adult system. I think we're wasting money on the back end of the problem of the drug wars, which again, judicial courts have to be neutral and nonpartisan, but they have to be able to use discretion. And when there are tools in the toolbox, a range of solutions, we are seeing that the statistics show this, the one size fits all assembly line system of justice does not work in the brown communities, the black communities. It doesn't work in any of the communities, regardless of, which religion you are or what educational background you have, what your poverty or wealth level is. These problems cannot be kicked down the road. And so what I'd like to see happen is the monies and the personnel and the expertise that are being in the specialty courts at the adult side of the criminal justice system be brought into the communities on the front end so that they can intervene and intersect with our children before it's too late. I'd like to share with you now just a brief story by my chief of staff, who's my secretary, my campaign committee. We call him Leo McGarity, but his real name is Kevin McGuire. And he's going to tell us a little bit firsthand about how his child, who was in a public school system at the time, had to have this second chance. And it was tough love through people that listened and had the best interest of the child at heart, and how most of the people that were trying to solve the problem were actually part of the problem. And it took sort of my efforts to sort of take a time out and explain things to the juvenile court judge and the magistrate judge that, look, we cannot treat people that are ill, that have a mental illness or an undiagnosed problem with mental health, that are now self-medicating themselves, as though that this is a criminal act. It was to try to get the child whole, this holistic treatment plan that we're talking about. I think it's paralleling what you're saying about fixing problems in our system, in the public school system. So Kevin's going to take a little time now to share with you the why Caye moment. Just like we're here to talk about the why Delancey Walton moment, I think this is some common ground that you're going to hear from parents when you start talking to them about this issue of the drug addictions and the mental health issues. Take it away, Kevin.
I want to speak to, as a parent, my youngest child became involved in the juvenile system, and the impact that he had on his life was pretty dramatic. And initially, he was injured. He fell down steps at school. He was prescribed opioid medication. And so it became a downward spiral. Fortunately, with Bill's help and hard work on the part of my son, and many years of sleepless nights, wondering if my child was ever going to be able to make the turn and become a productive person. To his credit, he recently graduated from college, has been gainfully employed, and has made significant progress in his life to becoming a productive person, which is what every parent, every grandparent plans for their child. And although I just met you tonight, and I don't know your family, I can only imagine that that your parents had significant hopes and dreams for you, and that to this point in your career, you've met all their expectations, and that's what the dream is for a parent, that their child will be successful and have a better life. Unfortunately, that's not always the case, and that's the issue that we're faced with. How to have a situation where a child can get a second chance, can have the opportunity to get their education and become a productive member of society. So there are just too many heartbreaking circumstances. We recently met a small businessman. Bill and I sat down in his business and learned of his son's passing due to an overdose from fentanyl. And it is an extremely sobering experience to sit down with another man and talk about the loss of his child's life. And so this impacts every member of society in one way or the other. So I can only imagine how difficult it is in schools today to keep everybody on the correct path. So hopefully you haven't experienced too many of these circumstances, but the reality is that it's a real problem. It needs to be addressed.
Please begin by entering williamcaye.com into the search bar. You will be taken to the William Caye for Common Pleas Judge website. To the right of the home page, you will see the Donate tab. Please select the Donate tab. On the Donate page, you will see the option to send a physical check, as well as what the address is to send that physical check to. Please no corporate checks. If you'd like to make an electronic payment, please scroll back up and select Make a Donation button. You will be redirected to a contribution form. Please select your contribution amount and enter your billing information as well as email and phone number. Once you select this information, please press the Submit button. Following the Submit button, you will be redirected once more to a confirmation webpage. You will also receive a confirmation email.
And we're coming right back. We want to give a shout out to our fundraising arm, Caye Therof at the Caye for Judge Committee. You can visit our website at williamcaye.com. This is paid for by the Caye for Judge Committee to cover all of the traditional disclaimers. Delancey, we're going to use this final segment to just talk about how hard it is to educate the people about these elections, whether you're an octogenarian, whether you're a millennial, whether you're a Democrat or an independent. Why is it so critical for you to shape your narrative and to tell the people who you are and why they should vote for you in terms of anybody else that's running for this position that you're seeking?
Yeah, so it's very critical for me because this position as board of director will be very purposeful when it comes to me being elected, if elected. And I believe in making sure that I am able to reach out and knock doors and get the younger generations to vote and get them to understand that we are able to stand up and speak our voice, and we're able to be in these positions and make decisions on the behalf of our future generation. So when I'm doing this and when I'm running for school board director, it's not for the generations of just today, but it's for the generations that are to be coming. So my niece, and as she grows up, that the decisions that I make now and the policies and procedures that I make now will be very effective and positive for when she enters Pickford Public Schools and when she becomes a member of society. And I just want to make sure that I am making a great impact and producing as much as I can for the next generation so that they don't have to fight against the issues that we are fighting against now or come against anything that we see as an issue in our day-to-day life.
Well, the thing that's critical for me, and I think you brought this up, and I gave you my business card. I gave you my word that you would not be left alone in your journey, that I would try to assist you here on out as best I can. And that's sort of how I've approached all of my work, my entire career, regardless of whether I was seeking office or seeking to assist somebody else that was seeking that office. That authenticity on your part, reciprocating, taking the time that day. I know you probably, like me, had to meet with all kinds of people, but it was sharing that moment where we're from different paths, we're from different parts of the city, but yet we found that passion of that shared, we want to help our communities, we want to help the next generation. Bringing judges or judicial staffs into the courts, into the communities, and then into the schools by extension, educating. I think I've talked many times in public about how I view the role of the judge in a modern way, to want to have community engagement, to allow children, allow teachers to observe the process, to ask questions about the process, not when it's too late, when the charges have been filed or petitions have been filed, but to let children understand that they could be a Delancey Walton or a Bill Caye. They can take the position of, we can work in the courts. We don't have to just be lawyers. We don't have to be judges. We can be probation officers, caseworkers. We can have law clerks or interns. All of these opportunities, because it's the people's court. It's not my courtroom. It's not your school system. Courts and educators have to be able to work together. Courts shouldn't be managing the schools, and the schools shouldn't be managing the courts. So one of the things that when I sat back and listened to some of the teachers and principals that have guided me to this point in my career, is it's not of any value to have either the students or the teachers feel unsafe in the work environment. It certainly does not behoove the teachers and the students to be in the courts during the day when they should be working their plan and planning their work to better themselves in a more robust way. So the courts, when they're bringing in people from the schools, whether it's teachers, students, witnesses, confrontations, disputes, whatever the situation is, I think it's disruptive to the school day for the courts to expect that to happen and then still have a positive out of maybe a negative situation. I'm trusting to schedule things in a more efficient manner using weekends, alternating weekends, or even evening hours, so that we're not pulling children or school student resource officers or psychiatrists out of the environment that they have to teach, they have to learn. Courts got to be able to adapt and function around the people that have those hardships. I've been talking about that even with small businesses. It's very difficult for people to go downtown, as I can envision teachers coming downtown from, different parts of the city where they have to worry about parking, where then they have to worry about, safe restrictions now that we're in a CDC controlled environment with the pandemic. And then they're thinking about their tests. They're thinking about their lesson plans. They're thinking about all the other students that don't get to see them that day. And then you have to have substitute teachers. You have to have teacher assistants. It's got to wreak havoc on the environment that we should be promoting, a positive, free environment for our children to feel that they can go to school and learn, and that our teachers can teach in a safe environment. So can you tell us about, listening to some of the things that you and I talked about, do you like some of the directions that I'm taking to try to, specialize in dealing with the issues for our teens and our parents and our teachers in the school system?
Yeah, I actually like what you just said when it comes to making sure that our students are in school for their full day. It's important that they still attend school and get their education so that they're not behind. And it's also important to look at the family aspect and make sure that mom or dad can get off work. It's important that we're making a well-rounded observation of how we handle our situations, and that we're making sure that they are available to be there and to handle the situation in the courtrooms, but to also make sure that they're still able to live their day-to-day lives and be able to provide for the family and be able to go get their education.
Now, there's a few points in our discussion this evening where I sort of intertwined some of our motivational themes, if you will. The fair and equitable justice for every citizen every time, the experience, the integrity, and the fairness to get results for the people, selfless service, honest communication, and compassionate leadership. Those are the themes that I believe any successful person, because you've talked about success and wanting younger people to be successful. If you had to say some of the themes for your campaign, just to let the people out there that are going to be watching this show to sort of remember, Delancey Walton for school board director in the Pittsburgh Public Schools. And what was the district that was 9?
District 9, yeah.
And see, there's 9 spots open for the Court of Common Pleas, and I'm going to be number 21. I'm just asking for one of those 9 votes. We will come back. We're going to segue to another commercial. You're going to see a commercial produced by Michael Bartley, a city resident out in Greenfield. And he's going to show us talking about my vision for including people. I think we're excluding people on the wrong basis, and we need to be more inclusive of people. We need to be able to work, again, with people that have different religious backgrounds, different sexual orientations, different geographical locations. The city of Pittsburgh has to start thinking about the people. We have to start putting people first. That's what my campaign is all about. I'm joined here tonight with Delancey Walton, phenomenal discussion about youth, about courts, and about education. And we'll be right back after these messages from our sponsors with the Caye for Judge Committee. Again, this is all being paid for by the Caye for Judge Committee. Thank you. Our courts have to reflect our communities. I endeavor to bring that experience in the community for our county to serve all citizens with equal justice every time. I understand the compelling issues of inclusivity and diversity in our court system, and that's why I am passionate about bringing juror reform. I'm Bill Caye, and I'm asking for your vote for judge for the Allegheny County Court of Common Pleas on May 18th. We're back with the Caye for Judge Committee. It's the show that everyone's been raving about, the Why Caye. And tonight I'm joined again by our gracious guest, Delancey Walton. Delancey, we're going to wrap it up now. I'm going to let you give a closing argument. I'm sure your grandpap has given many memorable ones. This is your chance to tell the voters that one thing as to why they should vote for Delancey Walton, what they should remember about your candidacy.
Absolutely. So the one thing you should know is that other than being a student voice and student experience, I'm here to be a listener. I am here to listen to all the concerns and issues that the community needs. I am here to make sure that I'm making correct decisions, making sure that I'm able to be educated on the policies and procedures that will be in place in the PPS school district. A little bit of the things that I would say about my campaign right now is one, do the impossible. And it's important that we are doing the impossible for our schools. It is important that we are doing impossible in our lives and building brilliance and purpose over politics. I believe that right now what I'm doing is a purpose, and it is a purpose for me to be your board of director for District 9, to be able to serve you and to be a servant leader for the community.
And what's your website again, and how can people find out you on social media?
My website is delanceyforschoolboard.org, and my Facebook page is Delancey for PPS, or you could type in Delancey for School Board District 9.
And we are so grateful for you joining us. This has been a great experience, and I too was listening and taking notes. People can find out about my campaign, my important election, because it's really not about me, it's about we. And you can go to williamcaye.com. You can go to Caye for Judge. I'm asking for one of the people of Allegheny County's 9 votes. I will be on the Democratic and Republican ballots. That's a nonpartisan, impartial decision-making role as a judge. And the biggest thing that I want my viewing audience, my supporters, people that may not know everything about me to understand is that I'm going to bring my character, my work ethic, and my service to others to help the citizens of Allegheny County to restore fair and equitable justice to every citizen every time. And one last thing, remember, it doesn't matter how you pronounce my name or say it, whether it's Caye, it's C-A-Y-E, or Caye, it's still C-A-Y-E. I'm honored to put this presentation together for you and to all our viewing audience. Until next time, my name is William Bill Caye. I'm running for the Court of Common Pleas for Judge in Allegheny County. Have a great evening, everybody. Take care. And this was paid for by the Caye for Judge Committee.